I just finished reading The Games Gods Play and I have a lot of opinions about it. This is my community picked read for the month and I really wanted to like it. And I kind of did. I had fun. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars on my Goodreads with my full review. I do have spoilers in there if you are going to read this, but you could probably still read my review and not read it, but I do have a non-spoiler section at the top if you are like, I want to read this first. My main issue with this book was that it was billed as Percy Jackson meets Hunger Games meets Romantasy, new adult. This book feels very YA. Extremely YA. There is like cursing and swearing, which is fine. That honestly, I think could be in like upper YA books. The one really steamy, really spicy scene feels extremely out of place. Like extremely out of place. And it's like, I think the main problem is the way that the main character is written. Our FMC is 23 years old, but she doesn't behave like a human 23-year-old. Like, I'm 23. I know what being 23 is like. I've met other 23-year-olds. She acts like a 16-year-old in a book who has the freedoms of a 23-year-old, if that makes sense. She feels very young. She's like a book 16-year-old, if I was to explain. She's like Clary. She's like Clary in City of Bones. She's very young. She's very naive. And if that was intentional, it's fine. But then when you get to the sex scene, it just kind of feels like Hades is taking advantage of her. It feels weird to have someone who feels 16 be with an immortal god. This is my microphone, by the way. The action is wonderful. If they had billed this as YA, I still would have read it. Unfortunately, because it's new adult, my biggest issue is the way that the character feels. She feels very young to me. The way it's written feels very YA, and it's not a problem, but the way that it was sold was that it was new adult Percy Jackson Hunger Games romantasy, and it's very much giving YA Percy Jackson Hunger Games, which is fine. But because that sex scene, it's not that. It's kind of a weird mixture where there was no good way to sell this, unfortunately. Maybe upper YA and cut the sex scene might have been better. I really thought in the beginning that this could be the next Fourth Wing, because Violet feels very young in the beginning of Fourth Wing, and then she grows up pretty quickly. But I think the difference between her being 20 and her love interest being older and 23 years old in the same sort of setting versus like her feeling 16, being 23, dating an immoral god, that's too much. The ending is insane. The last 40%, honestly, I kind of fucking clocked out. I was like, I just want this to be over. Maybe the last 25%, I was sort of over it. I had a really good time. It's just far too long. I think the beginning was really strong. I think the action was really good. I think you take out the last 25%, like you squeeze it down, you cut out the sex scene, you have a really strong YA book. Like a really strong YA book. Unfortunately, like the sex scene kind of ruins it. It's doing too much and not enough. I also got really irked because the one thing that I thought was like ground truth true was proven at the 50% point. And then it made kind of the rest of the book unravel for me. I had convinced myself of a fact that was not in fact a fact. And then it made the ending worse. Overall, I really had fun reading this book. It's definitely not what it seems. It's definitely not what the marketing tells you it is. I was sold on Percy Jackson meets Hunger Games. It delivered on that. It did not deliver on new adult romantasy. It feels very YA. The main character feels very young. I had a lot of fun reading it, but I definitely don't think it's the next Fourth Wing, which is what I wanted it to be so desperately. I wanted a Greek mythology book to be on top. I wanted people to be so hyped about this, and I'm just not excited for the next one, unfortunately. I'm just not there. It's so long, and then the ending is so rushed. Like the last 20%, 40%, most, like the end, I was like, all right, like let's go. Let's get this done. Yeah, that's my review. I think I'm gonna do a community picked read every month. This is this month's. A lot of the ones that were in last month's poll will probably end up in the next one because the Hurricane Wars is next for me, because I do want to try and find the next Fourth Wing, as if that will ever be a thing. I want to read it before it's popular. I want to be talking about it. I want to have opinions about it before everyone already has all the opinions to have. Unfortunately, my dragon food opinion is not that important to the lore of Fourth Wing. This is my call to you all. If you have a new adult romantasy recommendation, please give it to me. I've read a lot of them because I went on a enemies to lovers kick a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, and read them all that existed at the time. So if there are new ones, if there are personal favorites, I would love to hear them, because unfortunately, this is not it. I like this book. I had fun, but this isn't it. Unfortunately, no, it's not it. So we're trying the Hurricane Wars. We'll see where we end up.